612 ABC, Brisbane.
Tony Martin is a man with many talents. The former star of The Late Show, presenter of the late lamented Get This on Triple M, author of A Nest of Occasionals and writer-editor of his excellent blog that's called Scrivener's Fancy, which I read all the time. Tony can probably juggle and perform an appendectomy at the same time as well. And if listener indication is any example, people want him now to host the 7:30 report. But he's having none of that. He's making a very welcome return to ABC TV tomorrow night with his new interview series. The first of these is called A Quiet Word with Bill Bailey. Tony, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We did have to cut the appendectomy out. It wasn't a good ending to the episode.
Visually good, but...
It's good to hear that are they still doing appendectomies? I had mine out in 1990, and I'm now told that you're meant to leave it in. It's serving some purpose.
It can be done with a soft serve ice cream machine these days and a drinking straw, I believe, Tony. Yes.
I've seen Jack Bauer do that on 24. Goodness, I was told to get I went to my doctor's and he had listened to my stomach and he goes, "You've got to drive to a hospital now and ask to have your appendix out as it's about to go off." Like it was a grenade that I'd swallowed. Remember that? And I always remember waking up from my appendectomy, like 5 hours after that conversation with the doctor, looking up and my girlfriend at the time leaning over and saying, "We've been burgled." And our house had been burgled when I'd been having my appendix out.
That's terrible, Tony. That's awful.
I know.
I just had this image too of a doctor with a ticking appendix in his hand, sort of retrieving it from you, and you're sort of seeing that grisly image before you're knocked out again.
They can go off if you're not careful.
They can go off, explode in your hand and leave an awful mess. Tony, it is marvellous. We have had people suggest via text message that you should be the new host of the 7:30 report. That's just...
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, is Galen from Big Brother not available? Surely there's... I mean, I did hear a bit of your discussion earlier and you were talking about a new approach to the 7:30 report. Maybe more cooking. People seem to like cooking with everything now.
Sarah Marie to host the 7:30 report, yes, with the bunny ears on. Why not, indeed.
Master news.
Now, the idea is that behind this interview program is that you get to choose the guest you want rather than having to talk to Engelbert Humperdinck if he happens to be in town. That's the idea, isn't it, Tony?
I would like to talk to Engelbert Humperdinck. I do remember talking to Tom Jones years ago, and I don't know if you would be old enough, Richard, to remember This Is Tom Jones. Do you remember that?
I do.
There was a TV show where Tom Jones was so convinced of his own, masculinity and potentness that the only set was a giant sign saying the words Tom Jones. And I remember claiming to Tom Jones, and he believed me for about a minute, that they tried to do This Is Engelbert Humperdinck, but they couldn't afford the sign. They just simply couldn't get it into the studio. But I would be happy to talk to Engelbert Humperdinck. I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's given themselves the name Engelbert. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. There's
but no.
Obscure 19th century German composer, apparently, that Engelbert thought, that's me. Yes, indeed. So Bill Bailey, though, he's lovely, isn't he? I remember him. This is giving away my age now, Tony.
Yes.
I remember young Bill Bailey when he was in a group called the Rubber Bishops in Edinburgh in the late 1980s.
Well, I was in Edinburgh in 91, and you guys were over there. You were playing the same theatre, I remember, as David Baddiel and Rob Newman.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Who were the blokes who were playing... Wembley, weren't they the first comedy act to play?
They had the Mary Whitehouse experience, yes.
But you guys were just as big. You were playing that same theatre. And then the Rubber Bishops, by comparison, which was Bill Bailey and a man, I think his name is Martin Stubbs, were playing a midnight show to about 12 people in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, they were all right. Back in those days, you could see there was something there, but they were still kind of student uni review, if you like. They were still getting out of that phase with kind of uneven sort of jokes, but very funny things. He used to do this joke, how many amoebas does it take to change a light bulb? 1, no, 2, no, 4, no, 8.
Right.
I remember that. That was good.
No, well, he was, as we talk about in the show tomorrow night, he was sort of on that sort of edge of coming out of the political Ben Elton comedy of the 80s and then the beginning of the nonsense-based sort of, Reeves and Mortimer, Harry Hill, the Bush sort of comedy that came after that.
I remember Harry Hill's opening line as well the first time I saw him, which was, "Here we are, 20 years later, still no follow-up single from Musical Youth." Great opening
He's
line.
great. I love Harry Hill. It's hard. You sort of have to do his voice to make a lot of his material work. But he'd say things like, "Petrol tank. That's no place to bring up a small child." That's like a joke for Harry Hill.
So, how interviewing someone like Bill, he's a very, very funny man, and he's socially funny too. Is it hard not to get the giggles, or did you get the giggles indeed, Tony?
I did get the giggles because I'm a huge Bill Bailey fan. The idea with this show is for me to only interview people who I am a big fan of, so I don't have to pretend to like them or pretend to know anything about them. And the other idea with the show is because it goes 26 minutes. I mean, that is a long time on television. What it means is you can ask all the biographical questions. How'd you get into comedy? How did Black Books get on the air? That sort of thing. But you can divert and talk about things like how many Andre Rieu DVDs there are at the shops, which I think we talk about for something like 3 minutes of this program.
There are quite a lot, aren't they?
There are this is based on a year ago, by the way, so there's probably more. There are 30 individual Andre Rieu DVDs.
You see, right there, I saw another show. I just thought you and Bill Bailey come on each week and review another Andre Rieu DVD.
There'd be 30 weeks of it. Here's something I did notice. When Andre Rieu visits a town, he will do a sort of a local song. Have you noticed that? Yes. He'll do, like when he did Sydney, he does the theme from Neighbours, right? So when he does London, he does the theme from EastEnders. But when he goes to New York, the one we talk about, Andre Rieu in New York, he does yakety sax. Now, do people know what yakety sax is? It's the chase music from the Benny Hill Show. It's that somehow he's convinced that is a New York state of music. What the hell's going on?
Well, next time he comes to Brisbane, he should do "Life is Great in the Sunshine State." He should do that, which would be terrific.
He would do that at the drop of. He should know if he goes to Queensland, he should do the theme from "It's a Knockout." Dun, 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 dun. That's what he should do. That's what I would do if I was him.
That's right. So he's had this terrific career. Did he strike you as a happy man, or did he thankfully fulfil that cliche of the sad clown for you, Tony Martin?
No, Bill Bailey seems very well adjusted. I think he lives, because one of the things of the show is we don't go really into people's personal lives. I figured there's enough shows like that on the TV. But as I understand it, he lives in Indonesia on the beach. Lives a very relaxed lifestyle with his many synthesizers.
Well, pardon me, I had no idea. I imagine him living in somewhere like Hackney, sort of absorbing the street zeitgeist. But no, it's all bloody, gamelans and curries over in Indonesia instead.
He's a very relaxed man.
Very relaxed man.
He needs to be in a relaxed state of mind to come up with the material, I think.
Indeed. Blake, talking about Black Books, I think Black Books is an interesting show. It's one of those shows that its style of comedy is surreal, but to a point. Almost, it's like Father Ted, and I think there's a similar writer there in Graham Linehan. That kind of borderline surreality that's not quite. Do you understand what I mean by that, Tony?
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean, because Bill actually in the show tomorrow night talks about the pilot for Black Books that was just complete nonsense. There was like 40 people working in a bookshop, including a giant chocolate rabbit. And Graham Linehan, who you're quite right, did Father Ted with Arthur Matthews, came in, and he is from a more, I guess he's a fan of Seinfeld, as he admits himself. So they sort of welded those two styles together, the ridiculous and the everyday.
Yes,
and
the two lessons of Seinfeld, as I recall, were no hugs and no life lessons.
That's right, but also it's just full of things that you do remember. I mean, I absolutely love Curb Your Enthusiasm. And if you watch Seinfeld, you can see where that show comes from, the George Costanza character. I mean, I think, I don't know about you, but the older I get, I think I am turning into George Costanza. Every week I do something and I go, hang on, that happened to George on Seinfeld. What I always remember, and I've done this myself, is leaving a tip at the restaurant just as the bloke behind the counter looks away, so he doesn't see you put the tip in. So then you reach in to get your money to drop it in again so he can see you just as he looks back and it looks like you're stealing money. That has happened to me. And that's the sort of humour of Seinfeld, and that's and Graham Linehan loves that kind of humour. So he took that kind of everyday humour, the annoyance of what it must be like working in a bookshop, and then welded it to the nonsensical brain of Dylan Moran and Bill Bailey.
So the first one is with Bill Bailey. Is this a weekly thing or a monthly program, Tony? Are we going to be seeing?
There's 6 of them across the course of a year, because the ABC has this fabulous time slot called Artscape, which is at 10:05 on a Tuesday night, and it's every 4th week it'll be Jennifer Burns' book club. And otherwise, it's just a sort of random smattering of very eclectic arts documentaries and things. So I'm sort of going to be popping up there from time to time.
Have they shoehorned you into the arts slot, have they?
Yeah, I know. It's a bit highfalutin. I should have a cravat on.
From Triple M to ABC Arts,
I know.
It's a wonderful leap. How are you going to squeeze? You got to squeeze some footy in there somehow, I hope.
Well, I guess if it's Triple M, I should be. The first question should be, what's the weirdest place you've had sex? The second question should be, hey, what did you think of MasterChef last night? And then I guess I run out of questions and throw to a song. Throw to some Bryan Adams.
So who's coming up? Bryan Adams, I hope. Who else are you interviewing on the track? Can you tell us now, or would you have to kill me if you tell me that?
I can't, because we haven't heard back from them, but they're all... We've got two more hopefully scheduled that we're shooting in the next month, and they're both people from the world of comedy and film. That's all I can say. I'm not trying to keep it a secret. It's just that because we haven't heard back from them, it might look a bit rude if I say we've got them.
Well, I'm glad you're not going after someone like Mahatma Gandhi, because I'd have to tell you he's dead, and that's why you haven't heard back from him.
No, we'll get Mahatma Coat. You know we will. I'm sure he's still working. Who was that bloke?
I don't know.
Was it Greg Ritchie? Was he a cricketer? Was he Mahatma Coat on the Footy Show? The story I always remember is that he was behaving drunkenly on a plane once from a flight to Perth, and he may have been arrested. I'm not sure if that part's true, but the part I always remember is that he was in character as Mahatma Coat the whole time. I remember going, that's impressive, really.
Oh, that's marvellous. That's great. Great to know. I'm going to look into that when we're off air. Tony, great to speak with you. Congratulations on your new series. It looks beautiful too, by the way. It actually looks great for an ABC interview
nice.
show. Yeah.
Well, that's Joe Donahue Beckworth, who shot the last series of Librarians. Actually, lit that.
You're directing that at the moment, aren't you? You're directing.
Yes. I've done 2 episodes of the 8-episode series of Librarians 3, which starts October 13 on Wednesday nights at 8:30, actually taking over from Spicks and Specs on at an earlier time than previous series.
Now, I believe this new series will feature a Midnight Oil cover band. Am I right in thinking that, Tony?
Yeah, I think that it's in the trailer, so we can talk about it now. That is a fantastic subplot, because Wayne Hope, who plays Terry on the Librarians, I'm not sure if people would be aware, he also directs the show. And because there was so much of this plot where he revives his Midnight Oil cover band from the 80s, that's why he wanted me to direct 2 episodes, and also just keep an eye on Terry in the other 6 episodes. So I was kind of Terry's minder for 3 or 4 months there. So I know that character almost as well as Wayne does.
Has it got a name, the cover band?
It's called Oils Ain't Oils, and which is what an oils cover band would be called, of course. But there is a fabulous scene in the series where, do you know Tony Moclair?
I do, yeah. He's very funny, yes.
He plays the drummer in the band, and he thinks it should be called The Oils Ain't Oils because people would call them the Oils. And there's a fabulous argument about whether there should be a "the" at the beginning of the name. But that is a really funny subplot, and I think quite surprising for the Librarians. There's so many musical numbers in this series. It's going to be like Glee.
Fantastic. Look forward to that as well.
Cheers.
The Quiet Word with Bill Bailey, featuring Tony Martin, is going to air tomorrow night on ABC 1 at 10:05 and on ABC 2 on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Tony Martin, all the best, mate. Look forward to seeing the whole series. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, Brisbane.
Indeed. Thanks, Tony Martin.